Welcome to the Dr. Remina Pinjwani Show, where we're optimizing wellness together. I am your host, Dr. Remina. Today's show, I am co-hosting with my friend Eleanor Duelley with Holistic Hormones, and we are co-hosting on such a hot topic, the GLP class of drugs, weight loss drugs, specifically those that you have heard about, such as Ozempic. So what's the deal about all this? Let's jump right in. Hey, it's Dr. Remina and Eleanor. We are back again.
Hi, everybody.
And today, we just had such a great conversation and wanted to bring forward, what's the deal with these injections, right? The weight loss injections. I think this is going to be a great conversation.
They're everywhere. Yeah, they're everywhere you look. They're on every TV commercial. Clients are coming into my office asking about them, where they can get them. It's all over social media. Yes. So we're going to take some time and really just kind of explain our point of view on them and, what that might mean for you if you're thinking about it or if you're interested in it. So what do you think about it, Remina?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, as long as you have the information, good, trustworthy sources of information, then you can decide what's best for you. But I think just to break down what we're referring to is this class of drugs that was initially used for diabetics. So, there's a class of GLP-1 medications, and typically what that is used for, is for diabetics, for insulin, glucose, all that, balancing it out.
What is GLP-1? What is GLP-1?
Good question too. So it helps regulate your appetite, the feeling that you get when you're hungry. So it makes you feel full. So they noticed that as these diabetics were taking this drug, naturally, of course, their appetite was suppressed, but they also lost weight in a sense. In addition to having good glucose, blood sugar control, they had weight loss. Now, here's the big kicker. So, of course, the big pharmaceutical industry, and we talked about this, I'll let you elaborate on that too, but, it's a money-driven industry. So, you talk about the majority of Americans, there's quite a high percentage that's obese. And so the components that come with metabolic syndrome, being overweight, high cholesterol, diabetes, all that. So naturally, this is a big money market making business, right? So target it with medications. So I think the biggest piece of information that I want people to know is, yes, the benefits have been over exaggerated in a sense, but then the side effects have not been brought to light too, right? There's going to be good with the bad. So of course, if you're doing all the lifestyle components, trying to eat right, exercise, get your stress control, mind, body, spirit, all that good stuff, and you're still not losing weight, then maybe it's something to think about. But here's where, I've seen patients come up to me and, they said, I don't have time to go exercise. I just have fast food and I just want to lose weight fast. Well, here's the problem, right? If you do a bandage approach, you're not getting to root cause, then the side effects are pretty, you got to really think about it. There's the diarrhea, the gastroparesis, and, the muscle loss. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah, I'll let you chime in on this.
Essentially, there's no end game. Okay. So there is no, when I lose that 50 pounds, cause I really need to lose weight to get healthier. When I get there, what's the strategy for me to stay there and not be medicated? And there is no strategy for that. It's not discussed. It's not, we just stop taking the drug and then you just eat your regular diet and everything's happy and healthy. And that's the part that I try to ask people, like, what do you see, or have you thought about 6 months from now? Other than, having lost the weight, which I know is the biggest goal in many, many people's minds. But if we're doing it in a way that essentially is tricking the body, and what those injections are actually doing is paralyzing the stomach. So you're essentially turning off your body's ability to properly digest food. And while that might lead to reduced appetite and weight loss, your body needs that food. Your body needs to follow those processes out well in order for you to have strong bones and cognitive, have brain power when you're, aging, and all of these things that we don't think about when we want to lose 10 pounds. And that's the part that I try to remind people is it's not any quick fix is not a long-term solution. And there are consequences that you cannot get back. There are bridges you cannot go back.
Absolutely. And I think one of those biggest bridges to be concerned about is aging. Everyone's going to have it. So one of the things as you age, you lose muscle mass, you lose, bone strength and all. So those combined, you set up to be frail. So if you have a fall, you're going to it's a high risk of mortality, meaning death, or you're just going to have a poor quality of life, meaning you're in and out of the hospital. So if we're trying
in a wheelchair,
exactly. If we're trying to turn back time and maintain our youth, I think that's overlooked too. So, losing the weight too fast without doing the exercise to maintain your muscle and eating the right amount of nutrients to maintain everything else, then that sets you up to have a higher risk of mortality. And what's interesting is there's also a subset that, once these patients reach their goal weight, now that's not muscle mass. So you're talking about weight, just in general, not muscle. So you've lost all the weight. Then you come off of it, then you're still doing your regular lifestyle that without the modifications to sustain the weight loss, then you start gaining weight again, but it's fat. It's not muscle, right? So that's inflammatory in itself. And you don't have any protection for the rest of your body to maintain its youth and function. So when people try to go back on these weight loss injections, they were resistant to it. So it brings forth another a dilemma. Then once you start this weight loss drug, are you on it forever? Right? That's a possibility. So if the whole point is to make this temporary, then, that's something to think about too. And the side effects again, right? We don't know. There haven't been studies for this purpose, for the weight loss purpose. What happens long term, right? Like in 10 years, what's going to happen? You look back and you see what the side effects of new medications for the new uses are. You find out the side effects later. But what you and I are talking about are immediate, right? You can lose that weight fast. And I'm not saying that it's a completely terrible idea. I think it's just about getting the facts straight. So yes, you have, right. Yeah, right. Like you do all the lifestyle things and maybe do it in conjunction, maybe use it for a short period of time in conjunction with that so you can sustain that lifestyle. That's completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, part of it is I have so many people ask me about suppressing their appetite. And I just fundamentally don't understand why people want to suppress their appetite when it's a signal from the body that it needs something. So similar to a baby that cries when it's hungry, we don't deny them the food, right? But we're certainly can deny ourselves because we try to make it about something else when fundamentally it's the nutrients that are needed for us to have energy, for us to blink our eyes and for our heart to beat and things like that. And I feel like we get away from the biology of a human body when we try to manipulate and deny and force and change and do all these things without really thinking it completely through.
Yeah. And the hunger signal, that even goes in deeper. We should actually talk about leptin and ghrelin now, right? Yeah. This would be a good tie-in for that. So essentially what these are the hunger signals and the satiety signals. So the lifestyle factors, the type of foods that you eat. So the standard American diet, if you think you're eating healthy food, but they're not nutrient dense, then your body's going to feel like it's hungry all the time. So if you're covering the root cause, which is your body is undernourished, maybe you're just overeating empty calories, but your body's undernourished, then you don't want to ignore that hunger signal. You want to make sure that satiety signal is going to respond correctly. So, that goes into additional hormones, because these are hormones too, right? So
yes.
everything you put into your body.
I think it's important to know that the danger in ignoring hunger or suppressing hunger is your body's really smart and really adaptive. And so eventually you ignore it long enough, it goes away.
Yeah.
And then when we try to tap into intuitive eating and understanding our body, the brain has been trained to not trust those signals. And we get into this quagmire of not being able to truly intuitively understand what it is our body's asking for, what it needs, and what we need to give it. And that part is heartbreaking to me when women come to me and I say, okay, well, we need to build you back up. We need to get some of the basics about nutrition, because the $1 billion diet industry has done a number on how we look at food and what is bad food and what is good food, and I'm bad if I eat bad food. And so there's so many layers to this of when we get back to the biology of the human body, like we're getting away from what it looks like and how I fit into these pair of jeans, and what it is that our body needs to feel its best and to thrive and to be comfortable in our own skin. And sometimes that's not a black and white path.
Absolutely. Like you said, there's so much influence out there, but to have the right information and determining what is a good fit, because it's a personalized approach, right? There's a time and place. Yeah. So of course, before you do injections, it's probably a good idea to figure out your body composition. So there are methods you could test. Of course, gold standard is the DEXA scan, but there's also in-body analysis that you can find, because it's hard to go find a center that will give you the full DEXA scan versus the in-body. And so if you could have the tracking, the body fat, the water, the muscle, all of the ratio, track how you're doing while you're trying to lose weight or even being on the injections, I think that would be a good way to maximize your benefits as well. Going back to, I guess, the side effects too. So we talked a little bit about the gastroparesis, and there are issues with, long-term side effects, right? And I think, I'll let you elaborate on this part too, because we talked about this even more extensively, the additional side effects. Yeah.
Side effects of the weight loss drugs. Do I want to lose 10 pounds, or do I want to not be able to control my bowels necessarily, or feel, it's really, it treads into really light territory when we talk about, the fragility that women have about their self-esteem. And I think that's the part that I have such compassion for, is because I do understand that it is important, the way that you look and the things like that. And we look at the side effects of, some women, it really wrecks their hormones, because what we're doing is raising the cortisol through the roof, and we're not letting the body naturally ebb and flow with that. So it can throw your periods off. It can throw off fertility. It can throw off it can throw up insomnia and sleep and deep detox and rest and things that fundamentally the body needs to restore and to remake new cells. And we aren't alive unless our body keeps replicating cells and regrowing bones and just keeping us going. And the exact things that these drugs do, I don't think gets told to us, because we have stars in our eyes with the promise of it letting us lose weight.
Yeah. And those are such...
Would you agree with that? How do you feel about that?
No, I definitely agree. It throws off the entire system. And if your whole body was if your whole system was already a little off balance, then you can't really figure out where the imbalance is when you throw in the injections. So yes, if it is the stress that was increasing that cortisol, and then that ties into the weight. But then it also ties into your sex hormones, your longevity pathways, the way you function, brain fog, energy, sleep, all of that. It's all disrupted. So it's not really a magic drug, and it's definitely people should address the underlying imbalances, all these. Yeah.
First.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this has been a really great conversation. And I think, you and I just coming together to have a real honest conversation about our perspectives with helping women understanding their bodies and furthermore, giving them pause when they're looking into quick decisions, especially with their metabolic health, their hormones. And, we both offer functional testing so that we can find out what's going on before you make these decisions. As Remina, you just said, we have to find out what's going on before we go and start changing things around, because we might uncover something that is a much safer and healthier fix. Because it starts at the bottom, at the root. So thank you guys so much for listening, and stay tuned to our next conversations.
Thank you. Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, share with your friends and family, and of course, subscribe. Thank you so much for your support.